Having heard so much, let us now start talking about how do we tell stories to cross-cultural teams. And we need to align the meaning of a narrative across multiple differences. So today, in this particular session, we will discuss storytelling for cross-cultural teams.
The world is shrinking. Thanks to technology and travel, we're constantly interacting with people from different backgrounds. But have you ever stumbled trying to communicate with someone from another culture? You're not alone. Today, we're diving into the world of cross-cultural communication. Imagine culture as a unique bridge connecting each of us. It's built from shared beliefs, values, customs, and the way we communicate. These bridges influence everything, from how we speak to how we greet each other. Take greetings, for instance. A firm handshake might be the norm in New York, but in Seoul, a respectful bow is more appropriate. Eye contact is another fascinating area of nonverbal communication. In Western cultures, strong eye contact is often seen as a sign of confidence, honesty, and attentiveness. Making eye contact shows you're engaged in the conversation and listening actively. But in some Asian cultures, prolonged eye contact can be considered disrespectful, especially towards elders or people of higher social status. It's more about showing respect through attentiveness and listening without staring directly. So, while maintaining eye contact is important in many situations, remember, context is key. Communication styles can vary greatly across cultures. In high-context cultures, like Germany or Scandinavia, communication tends to be direct and explicit. People value clear, concise language and get straight to the point. In low-context cultures, like China or Japan, communication is more indirect and relies heavily on context and nonverbal cues. Here, harmony and avoiding confrontation are important, so messages might be delivered more subtly, with indirect suggestions or carefully chosen phrases. Words are just one piece of the puzzle. Nonverbal cues are like a hidden language, too. A thumbs up might signal good job in most places, but in Iran, it's considered rude. Personal space is another cultural dance. People in Latin cultures might stand closer during conversations, while those in Scandinavian cultures prefer more distance. These differences can lead to misunderstandings. Imagine mistaking a friendly pat on the back for disrespect or interpreting silence as boredom. Sometimes we fall into stereotypes, assuming things about someone based solely on their culture. And the worst culprit? Ethnocentrism, that is believing your culture is superior to others. But wait, these challenges are opportunities for growth. Here's how to become a cross-cultural communication expert. First, be aware of your own cultural biases. We all have them. Second, do your research. Learn about the cultures you'll be interacting with. Third, become an active listener. Pay close attention to both what's said and what's not said. Fourth, speak clearly and simply. Avoid slang and jargon. Fifth, patience is key. Give people time to process information and respond. Sixth, humor can be tricky. What's funny in one culture might be offensive in another. Seventh, respect is universal. Show appreciation for different customs and traditions. By mastering these skills, you'll unlock a world of benefits, stronger relationships, and better collaboration. Creative ideas sparked by diverse perspectives, booming business opportunities in a global market. Most importantly, you'll promote tolerance and understanding, building bridges of connection instead of walls of misunderstanding.
Teams that work across countries, languages, and value systems in one single organization itself. Cross cultural communication often fails not because of bad intent, but because of different kinds of interpretations. Same message but the meaning is understood differently. Storytelling helps reduce this gap. A well-designed story creates shared understanding when vocabulary, hierarchy norms, and work styles differ. Have you ever seen the same instruction understood differently by two different cultures or two different cohorts? Generally, it happens. Let us understand why is it so necessary to understand the study of cross-cultural teams in cross-cultural environments. Direct instructions sometimes feel rude in some cultures. Indirect messages may feel unclear in others. Data may convince some teams. On the other hand, purpose may convince a different team. Story here becomes important because it carries context, it carries emotion, it carries intent, it carries outcome. Story explains not just what to do, but why it matters.
It's so easy to place people in boxes, drawing lines, creating sides. There's us, and there's them. Those we feel comfortable around, and those we don't. There are those of us with many chapters, and those just starting their own stories. There's the well-to-do, and those doing what they can. There are those we share something with, and those we don't seem to share anything with.
Welcome, and thank you for coming today, guys. Today I'm going to be conducting an experiment where I'll ask you a series of questions. Now, these questions will be very personal questions, and for us to get a true result, I need you to be completely honest with how you respond. The first question I have is, who in here was the class clown? Who is never on time?
And then there's us, we who have tattoos. We who feel lonely. We who have been bullied. We who have bullied others. We who are madly in love. We who have overcome great adversity. And there's the lucky ones, whose team won the championship this year. We who beat cancer. there's all of us who are created in the image of God. And as one body, we stand together, united as one under His grace.
Globally, research in intercultural management shows that narrative framing improves shared sense making across different kinds of groups. So, story carries that original intent across different cultures and delivers the same meaning. What actually changes across culture? Why is it that communication is understood differently? Communication directedness, power distance, risk to tolerance, time orientation, individual versus group focus. All of this matter. So the same message must be framed differently while the core story has to stay the same. The cross-cultural storytelling principle is stable core but flexible expression, shorter sentences but important idea. So 4 things are to be kept in our mind, extremely observant. What is the structure that is followed universally for cultural storytelling? Situation, challenge, human impact, what are the actions that we take, and what is the positive outcome that we can expect out of this?
It's a big world, full of difference and diversity. How you see others is influenced by your own cultural perspective, and how others see you is influenced by their cultural perspective. What happens when you speak? Do people from other cultures understand you in the way you intended? And what happens with different cultures in the workplace? How rigid or flexible is their approach to rules? Is formal or informal behaviour expected? And how do different cultures approach timekeeping? In today's global business environment, it is essential to learn how to navigate across different cultural landscapes. You need a good set of tools to do this. You need an understanding of how different cultures trade and do business, an insight into how different cultures communicate, and a clear idea of how different cultures manage people. To be a savvy global traveller, you need to be willing to undertake the journey of understanding other cultures. Develop cultural intelligence so you can communicate confidently across cultures.
The point is, why does this work? Every culture understands struggle differently. Every culture understands effort differently. But every culture respects progress. So what we need to avoid? We need to avoid culture-specific humor or slang or even metaphors. For example, we must avoid certain cricket metaphors in non-cricketing cultures, or avoid baseball metaphors in Asia, because Asia loves cricket, right? So why give a baseball metaphor? Here, I'd like to give you one of the most solid examples of cultural transformation which happened in Microsoft. When Satya Nadella became the CEO of Microsoft, Microsoft had teams across dozens of cultures globally. Thereby, collaboration between teams was highly fragmented. Internal competition was high. The organizational culture was very, very rigid. So what did Nadella do? Instead of issuing policy changes globally, he started talking about a leadership story. He said, we must change the organizational culture from know-it-all to learn-it-all. The story was extremely simple and it was repeatable across any culture. The meaning of the story was culture neutral. And to do this, he used multiple personal learning stories from his own life, or for that matter, customer stories globally, failure stories, most important, growth mindset stories. And his narrative traveled across different cultures globally because it was not dependent on American idioms or Americanized understanding. It used human feelings as a theme. It reduced hierarchy. It reduced fear. It encouraged curiosity. The phrase learn it all is globally understandable. That is the intention of narrative design. When you put design into a story, what was the impact that Microsoft saw? Improved collaboration across countries. There was an organizational culture reset. There was a shared behavioral expectation in the organization. Stress reduced. Simple culture became the story of Microsoft and it started scaling globally. What are the practical guidelines that we can take from this beautiful cross-cultural storytelling technique used by Microsoft? What we need to do is we need to use shorter sentences. Let us use universal themes like learning, improvement, or for that matter, customer benefit. When we change countries, let us avoid sarcasm and local slang. Let us use real examples and not abstract claims. And let's keep on repeating the core message that needs to be delivered consistently again and again and again till it seeps in. We can test our own story with a person from another culture before we do a larger organizational rollout. So what is the insight that we have when we are dealing with cross-cultural teams? Remember, cross-cultural teams do not actually need more and more instruction, but they need a shared meaning. The story, the narrative design builds shared meaning faster than policy documents. When the story is clear, alignment across verticals, across countries, across borders, across deliverables becomes even. Everybody understands that we need to deliver to what we have been asked to. The entire organization starts following one particular culture that the leader had set. So, if anything goes wrong, right, we have to understand that we need to recontextualize the entire thing, recontextualize our people, our understanding of our people, the organizational behavior and the people behavior. That's what a leader does when he wants to create a corporate culture that belongs only to his organization and specifically to his organization. That's why I shared with you the Microsoft change management which happened because of Satya Nadella walking in and telling that, hey, we are here to learn. We are not here to tell to the world that we know all. So learn it all was a better cultural philosophy that he floated. And that's how storytelling made a big difference in the world of Microsoft. There are multiple other organizations globally which have taken the help of narrative design to bring cross-cultural teams closer, nearer, and bond them together to deliver a wonderful corporate entity.